So we get another Saki-focused episode after last week, and now we have this week, which is a much more dark and gloomy episode than last week's, but I'm really happy with the structuring of the past two episodes, because with how last week ended with a bit of jealousy, but accepting that Toru does have her own life, and sometimes they wouldn't always be together, but still having her come back to help her, it really did make her happy, and then seeing just the end of this week's episode with Toru's mother saying, even if someday you three do grow apart, it's not like you have to feel lonely. Something about this relationship will always stick with you, and it's not because either one of you is an issue or anything like that. It's just part of growing up. Sometimes you will have your separate paths that you'll walk, but you'll always be together. It's just a really nice message to kind of tie together the past couple of episodes, and really seeing Saki and just what happened to her throughout her life until she met Toru. It's quite tragic, but something I've been saying for a while is how I'm really happy that Saki isn't a gimmick in terms of her waves. And a lot of anime, manga, things like that, when you have this so-called waves, that would be a gimmick and there wouldn't be an actual power here. And it would be very easy, even in a series like Fruits Basket, where you have the Soma Curse, to have characters who aren't part of the Zodiacs to have, abilities. You wouldn't normally see that. So to actually see that she can connect to these ways and it is an actual ability, that's always impressed me since pretty much the early stages when we realized that it wasn't a gimmick and there actually was something going on with her weird demonic-like powers. And to see just what can happen when she loses control, or just really she can't shut off her mind and then just hears all these voices and pretty much goes insane, it's pretty sad. And just to see the bullying that would occur, because anyone who's different throughout school life, depending on the circumstance, sometimes you get lucky and you won't get bullied, and then other times you can get it just as bad as here, being literally tortured by burns and things like that. You can read up on it, you can see it firsthand. That type of stuff does happen. It's just like she got the worst end of the stick back to back to back. And just the idea that this is a girl who is so tortured that she feels like because she can't go to jail, she has to put up with abuse. She feels like because she wished death upon someone, which she agrees, and most people can agree you should never do, but you would understand the lashing out that she did, and the pain that she had all this time, it's quite sad. The thing that really sold just the backstory overall was the layering effects that they would do to the voices, and how they would present the shots overall. They had, right off the bat, when basically we see young Saki walking with her family, you hear this muffled effect to all the voices around her, as if we really were inside her head hearing all these voices, not perfectly clear, but enough to understand how it could drive someone insane and make them feel like they have to be antisocial. And then you'll have this really interesting transition effect, which is actually quite similar to the paint effect that I used to transition from image to image, but obviously presented a lot more demonic, and just how everything was so almost like grayscale, but not quite grayscale. But to give it this effect as if we were trapped in her hell, as if the world around her was eternal hell. And it wasn't until the end of the episode where her world started to light up with the people around her, primarily her two closest friends, how the world was no longer this hell that she was trapped in, but actually something that embraced her with open and kind arms. Just the overall production to this episode is what sold the backstory. Because yeah, you can see the torturing and you can see just the emotionless glare she would give, and that's sad to look at, but when you have that layering effect to the voice acting to really make it feel like we were inside her head and we understood how both she was going almost demonic with her anger, but also just the fear of all these voices in her head, to then just the transitioning from scene to scene and just the presentation of these shots, you felt like you were just as gloomy and depressed as she was. And to just see the very slow but also almost fast progression throughout her life, and just seeing how bad it was. It wasn't even like her family life's bad. Her family life's great. Her parents are fantastic. Her brother is way more mature than he should be for his age. But you gotta bless him for being this way, because that prayer he said very early on, that hopefully someday there will be someone who can save you, and obviously Toru was there for her. It just feels like she had everything except she was burdened by something she couldn't control, and it wasn't until she had true friends and family that could make her feel safe that she no longer would hear those voices. She could get her abilities under control. And to see that progression, it was just emotionally gripping. The idea that you have the first half, which is just this brutal environment, and just you felt so bad for her, and you just knew, obviously she'd get over this, but it was hard to see that, almost like a parent not knowing what to do for their child. But then when you get into her new school, which is Toru's school, it was so interesting to see how immediately, all her life, basically since she wished death upon someone and almost seemingly killed them, I like how she was so confused because basically all her life everyone pushed back against her. And then you have someone saying, eat lunch with me, or saying, see you tomorrow, good morning. It's these natural things that she thinks she didn't deserve, but she's kind of grown so numb to abuse that it just makes her blush. It makes her feel happy. And the more she pushes back, the more they drag her back in, saying, we're all a little bit freaky in this school too. Eat with us, everyone thinks we're crazy too. It was just so heartwarming to see just the relationship and how this central crew got formed. Because from episode 1, you saw they were a close group of friends, and most of the times that close group of friends would not even be the focus in a series that you have all the somas and their curses. They would kind of be pushed to the side, not really focused on. But here, they get their chance to shine, both with the comedy, both with the drama, the present, the past. We get to see everything, and that's the thing that really sells Fruits Basket, the everything. Every little corner gets explained, touched upon, fleshed out, and feel like Fruits Basket is an actual living and breathing environment and not something that is just plot point to plot point to plot point. No, this is a world. Characters all have their own stories, their own struggles, their own happiness, and basically just doubts of what should happen. And the idea that we can slow things down, speed things up, or just go back in the past and ignore the present for the time being, it really shows the difference between Fruits Basket's writing and just your run-of-the-mill, basically trying to be character drama, but just failing miserably because they can only write one good character, where with Fruits Basket, everyone's a good character and has their chance to be fleshed out. I would definitely say this was my favorite episode in terms of production. I just love the look of this episode. You know, we got a character who just dresses in black. That's what makes her feel calm. And even after all this time of basically not being lost in her abilities and just people around her, she still wears black because that's just what she's been rocking for so long. She wants to continue to do so. But when you're in the past, or just when she's still depressed, the way they detailed this, it's a very simple stylization. You've seen this with many anime, but it's something with the story and how they were lighting things up or making things really dark, as if you couldn't actually see all that was happening because that's just how corrupt her mind was becoming. That was the type of production that I love. Visual directing is so important, especially for emotional sequences. And this episode is basically a textbook example of how to do visual directing to amplify and enhance a story at hand. And the voice acting, from the pain to the emotionless glares and just words that she would say, especially very, very young Saki, when are the police coming? Like, that is just heartbreaking. It's just soul-shattering to hear that this is how low she thinks of herself and how broken of a shell she was. Basically just a husk walking around. And just the overall pain, the overall love that's being put into this episode, this project as a whole, it just elevates this series to another level. And it's just, these are the episodes that, like, you can show someone who's never seen a Fruits Basket episode, right? And they're just like, why should I watch this? Like, they have no connection. You could show them this episode and they'd be like, what the hell? This is what Fruits Basket can be? And people are going to start binging right then and there. I would hope they would do so from episode 1, but this is a good episode to say this is why the show is so damn good. And even not really knowing these characters, you just see the bond that kind of been formed. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend people start here, but get what I'm saying. It's just that's how strong this episode is, that it could hook you. It could hook you from not knowing anything, and it's just obviously going to hook you if you've had a connection with these characters up to this point. I'm such a sucker for any time you have like a past sequence or just really demonic and abusive scenes. It's all dark and gloomy, and then the sunrise hits you, and you're like, you see it. You can even call it cliche, but it works so perfectly, especially in a story like Fruits Basket, and more importantly, the Saki focus episode. It comes across as this romantic atmosphere of a girl who's been so emotionally broken, so destroyed all her life, and now the world around her is so bright and vibrant, and it just makes you so goddamn happy that she's no longer in that hell being force-fed food of living animals, or literally being burned and scarred by supposedly what you could call classmates, but are just absolute bitches and devils. This episode and this story overall is just goddamn magnificent, and obviously is why Fruits Basket has been remembered for so many years. I just feel like with Fruits Basket, we have 3 episodes left to its first season before we wait for the second season, whenever that may come out. We know it's happening, but whenever it does come out. And I feel as if at any moment this season can wrap up and I'm feeling satisfied. And that's what I like. I feel like we've grown so much with all these characters, and of course, we still have so much more story left to tell, but I feel like what this season has done, it's done more than most first season for series such as Fruits Basket would typically do, and that's why I'm so satisfied. Whatever we get for the final few episodes, excellent, but with the quality we've seen from not only this episode, but just across the other 21 episodes, it feels as if we've had enough just top-tier A+ quality anime that whatever we get, even if it's better than what we've seen here or worse than what's seen here, that's fine. Like, this anime's proved itself. This season has proved itself, and I can't wait to see how they're gonna wrap up the first season, and obviously where the second season will go when we do eventually get it. But what did everyone think? For manga readers, anime originals like myself, what did you think of this very emotionally abusive, gripping episode of Fruits Basket and where Saki's characters went overall? And for anime originals, did you see any of this coming? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this video though, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.